Welcome to Inspired to Taste. I'm Liz Joy, and today I'm making a special 2-in-1 cake for my parents' 52nd anniversary while they share the story of how they fell in love.
It was love at first sight. I still remember it. I thought that she was the most beautiful woman I ever seen in my life.
I remember the first time I saw him. I was getting out of my car. I was going to walk into the hospital. I was a nursing student. And this man came up to talk to me, and he seemed very pleasant, handsome-looking guy with a heavy accent. And he questioned me about my car, which had a soft spot. And he said, "Oh, I used to have an old Dodge Start like that." And I thought that was kind of neat. And then I forgot about him.
I had come to the hospital for an interview for a job. I was with my younger brother. And as we got out of the car, I saw this beautiful girl coming out this old Dodge Dart. I looked at her and I just stood there. She was with her back at me and her beautiful brown hair cascaded almost to her waist. And she was wearing a killer miniskirt. I looked at her and I just couldn't take my eyes off of her. And at that time, I didn't speak English that well, but I could communicate. So I asked her, "Excuse me," and she turned around and she looked at me. And when I saw those blue eyes, that was it. I was done. So I told her that I used to drive a car like that and it was a very nice car. Immediately she said, "Really? Well, this is my car." Well, I said, "I like it very much." I said, "So what is your name?" She looked at me and said, "Gail, what's yours?" And I said, "Eddie." "Oh, okay." She turned around and walked. I walked back to my brother and I told him, "You know what? I'm going to marry that girl." And he started waving his hand in front of me. "Are you awake? Are you okay?"
It was probably about our third or fourth date, and he had not made a move yet. And I was thinking, And so that night, I wore the shortest miniskirt I had, and he came over and we were talking. There were no plans for the evening. And he gave me a kiss on the cheek. And then he said, "You want to go out for drinks?" And I said, "Okay." And it was after we were coming out of the restaurant that he held my hand. And then at the door, he gave me a kiss. And I went, "There's potential."
If I have to remember something special, was that lingering kiss right on the door before I left. I went dancing towards my car.
I was in my little studio apartment by myself, probably cleaning house, and I had Carole King on my record player. I was listening to a specific song, and all of a sudden it struck me. I think I love this guy.
One of my visits, she mentioned that her favorite singer, Johnny Mathis, was having a concert at the Greek Theater, and how it would be wonderful if she could see him. I left out of there, and I sold 2 pints of blood, and I added that to my savings, and I bought 2 $75 tickets, and I surprised her with the tickets, and we went to see Johnny Mathis. Before we went into the theater, we sat under the trees on the grass. He had brought a blanket and I brought some wine, and we shared a drink before going into the concert. I can still remember even the songs that he sang. They were funny times because we were 2 different cultures coming together. But I think that's what made it even more interesting. She had things to tell me that I didn't know, and I had things to tell her that she had never been exposed to. We have never had what people would call in a marriage a fight or anything like that. We may probably had a small disagreement, but nothing that we can call a fight. It's been a wonderful trip together.
I agree with your dad, a lot of cultural differences, but never any fights. We just had disagreements. Everybody, doesn't agree all the time.
Well, I remember the first time I asked her to marry me, and we were in her apartment, and I didn't have a ring or anything. I just asked her if she would marry me. And she thought for a while, and then she said no. And then time went by, and I asked her again, and she didn't say no totally, but she said something like, "Well, I'll think about it." So some time went by, and the third time that I asked her, she said, yes, I want to marry you.
It might have been the fourth time, but it's just that I did not want to get married. I didn't feel like I wanted to get married. And so I told him no several times. And it was probably about a year and a half or so after that first proposal that I don't know what changed, okay? Maybe I was feeling more secure in our love, but it was the time when in the shops like the candle and the incense shops, they had rocks and people painted on rocks. And it was just a cool thing to do. And so I went ahead and I had this perfect little rock about this big, and I painted on it very carefully, and I said, yes. And I made a little flower on it, and I put it in a little golden box with some padding behind it, and I gave it to him one night. And he goes, what's this? And I said, open it up. And then he goes, yes, you want to marry me? And I said, yes, I will.
I think I still have the rock.
I think he does. Just starting your journey is full of passion and fun and excitement. And I would say stay the course, because it's not always going to feel like that. There will be low moments. But if you stay the course and you're blessed enough to live a long life together, it gets better in a different sort of way. It gets calmer and more loving and tender, and it just feels wonderful. So when you go through those hard times, don't give up, stay the course, because it will end up well.
Be honest with each other. Be truthful. Be patient. Be supportive. Above everything else, be loving and understanding. I think the most important thing is that when hard times come about, that you can sit down together, look at the problems, and understand there is always a higher power that you can go to and trust and hope that all the problems will be solved. Your mom and I have been practicing that since we met and since we first got together.
I would say that I love you as much as at the beginning, if not more.
I would say the same thing. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and I see your mom sleeping comfortably and trusting. And I sometimes hold her hand, and even in her sleep, she goes ahead and squeezes my hand. It's wonderful. I still love her that much or even more. Oh,
It's sweet. Look at your curls, honey. Oh my gosh. Oh, sissy, this is perfection. Look at my uniform.
Looks just like you, honey.
Must have been a miniskirt, huh?
Beautiful, beautiful, amazing work as usual.
Yes, it is.
You're an artist.